Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. The name is Harry Cruz and today we're going to be doing The Forest of Doom Part 4. So, without further ado, let's continue our Let's Play the Final Fantasy Gamebook series. Last time we left off, we finished our first playthrough of the book. We were able to get one part of the hammer, which was in the crypt towards the end. However, we did not have the first, well, I believe to be the first part of the hammer, in the first part of the forest. So what we ended up doing was we actually went back in time from some sort of spell of Nostromo or something or other, and it actually reverted us back to a different playthrough, but we lost everything except our gold, funny enough, which was very interesting. So we actually gained more spells to try and play through the second time, which made things a bit easier. So instead of going left at the big oak tree after Nostromo's tower, where we got spells again, we decided to go east. And we actually chatted to a bird, which was, he was transfigured into a bird by Nostromo and has to earn 30 gold pieces to actually turn back into a human, interestingly enough. And he advised us to go north. So I reckon we've just gone north now, and we're walking along a path now, and I'll continue reading it in a second. I'm hoping the first part will be here. We know we have to go west to get the dust of levitation from this wrestler guy, but we have to have an armband of strength in order to defeat him, which we do have, of course, and we know that the second part is anyway from the first playthrough, so we've just got to go through the motions, see if we can defeat this Forest of Doom. We may be able to do it in this part if we're lucky, but we'll see how things go. Just to remind you of our equipment, we have 5 provisions, potion of healing, a 12 skill and 12 luck, so max on the skill and luck, so we've done fantastically well on that. 20 stamina, 22 gold still. We've got our sword, we've got the knowledge, of course, that 2 goblins have the parts of the hammer. We've got the equipment here. As you can see, we've got quite a few bits and pieces. So we've got the glove of missile dexterity, rope of climbing, headband of concentration, potion of insect control, boots of leaping, potion of stillness, ring of light, potion of plant control, the map of Darkwood Forest itself, fire capsules, 5 of them, a backpack, a net of entanglement, leather armor, holy water, garlic buds, potion of anti-poison, armband of strength, and finally nose filters. So loads and loads of equipment, but that's partly due to the amount of gold we had advantageously at the start of the second playthrough. Without further ado, let's continue the narration. Walking along the path, you hear footsteps and arguing voices ahead of you. If you wish to meet the owners, turn to 317. If you'd rather hide in the bushes to let them walk by, turn to 392. Well, we're no cowards, we've got 12 skill. We should be fine. Let's go and meet them, shall we? You draw your sword and prepare to meet the owners of the arguing voices. 2 tall, spindly creatures appear clad in tattered cloth over which they wear chainmail jackets. They see you and instantly stop their argument. They are hobgoblins and draw their swords to attack you. Some sort of variation of goblin look, very tall, humanoid-like, even actually a bit taller than humans on average. They're quite menacing folk, don't they? So, I think we're going to be attacking them, guys. We're going to be fighting. So the first goblin, 6 skill, 6 down. This should be a breeze. We've got 12 skill. Slash the first hobgoblin there. We have the option to escape too, but that won't be necessary, I don't think. Hit them again. One more should do it. And we've sliced his head off there. 19. Next, second hobgoblin. Slightly weaker on the skill, but a lot healthier. 7 stamina. Go attack to hit the second hobgoblin there, slashed his foot, making him hop on the floor. Okay, same roll, but we've still got the advantage there. One more should do it, and I think that'll do it now. And we've dispatched the second hobgoblin quite easily. We are indeed triumphant. We do indeed win. You search through the pockets of the hobgoblins and find 3 gold pieces, a tiny brass flute, and 2 maggot-ridden biscuits, which will restore 1 stamina point each. There is also a necklace made of mouse skulls around one of their necks. To the left of the path, you notice a large hole in the ground with a diameter of some 3 meters. Walking over the edge of the hole, you see it sloping off to the depths of the earth. If you wish to walk down the hole, turn to 125, or if you prefer to continue northwards up the path, turn to 337. Well, I reckon we should explore the hole, due to the fact that if there's hobgoblins nearby, it might be some sort of goblin cave, goblin layout. Goblins tend to like to live underground. However, the crow did say north, and it may be that we have to continue going north to receive this treasure. Maybe this hole is actually a trap, but I think gut instincts wise, let's go down the hole and see what happens. As you descend into the hole, you notice large amounts of slime created by some huge creature. If you wish to climb back out the hole and continue walking northwards, turn to 337, or if you wish to carry on down the hole, turn to 15. I actually reckon this is probably some sort of diversion tactic to make us stop going down here, when actually I reckon there might be something down here. So let's continue. Let's go down the hole. Oh gosh, okay, what's this? The slope is steep and you slip on the slime, tumbling head over heels down the hole to the bottom into a large earthen cavern. You jump to your feet and are alarmed to see the shiny tip of a poison barb on the tail end of a huge stingworm coming straight at you. The stingworm is about 5 meters long and has huge yellow segments, but all you care about is protecting yourself from the barb. There is no time to scramble out of this hole now. You draw your sword. Gosh, it does look a bit nasty, doesn't it? We must indeed fight. So a bit of a stronger adversary, the stingworm. 8 skill and 7 stamina, but I reckon we've still got quite an advantage over this creature despite the dangerous stinger. We do indeed hit it. Once again we hit it. Slice the stinger off, I think, after that blow. Despite the... well, it's about the same, well actually, so never mind, we still won. And we won again, yeah, so quite easy dispatched. We do indeed defeat it. You walk around the lifeless bulk of the worm to examine the contents of its lair. There are several skeletons, perhaps these belong to other unfortunate adventurers. By the side of them you find a leather backpack. Inside this backpack you find 4 gold pieces and a corked bottle containing a colourless liquid. If you wish to drink the contents of this bottle, to 262, or if you'd rather leave the dark cavern and scramble back up to the path, taking just the gold with you, turn to 337. Well, we've defeated this creature, there must be something valuable in it, surely. You look up the bottle in your hands and then quickly gulp them down its contents. You wait several seconds for some reaction, but nothing happens. However, when you come to pick up your sword, which you have put down in order to examine the backpack, a surge of confidence runs through your body. This is a liquid of potion of weapon skill, which adds 1 point to your skill. Taking the gold, you scramble up out of the earth cavern to the path above and continue your journey onwards. So that was definitely worth doing. We've got +1 skill. Okay, there's a cave here. You emerge from the slain stingworm's lair into sunlight. You have to stop and blink for a few moments before your vision clears and you continue on your way. At last, the trees begin to thin out and shafts of sunlight beam down through the gaps on either side of the path. As the path widens, you see a large cave entrance set a few yards back on the right. If you want to examine this cave, turn to 230, or if you wish to continue northwards up the path, turn to 358. Now, this is the cave that I reckon might host goblins, possibly. There were hobgoblins patrolling the path nearby, north of the Shurma's Tower. Maybe this is a goblin there. I reckon we should try it. Slowly, you peer into the cave and see a huge shape of an ogre walking slowly. Gosh. Quite a big fella, isn't he? Slowly over to a wicker cage with a bowl of water in his great hand. He is dressed in animal furs and carries a stone club in his belt. There appears to be a small creature jumping around inside a cage. I can't quite tell. Is that a goblin? I'm not sure. Looks small enough. You may pick up a rock and throw it at the ogre, rush in and attack the ogre with your sword, or leave the cave and continue up the path. Well, I'm very confident with our skill level. We're 13 now, we're over the maximum possible skill. Oh, +2 even. 14 skill. So I actually reckon we should just attack the ogre with our sword. You draw your sword as you enter the cave. The ogre throws down the wooden bowl and lifts the large stone club from his belt. He grunts and lopes towards you. Prepare for battle. Quite a lot of battles in this part, isn't there? We must fight again. So, quite a lot of stamina there, 12 stamina, but 8 skill. So still a lot weaker, given we've got 14 skill now overall. I think we should be able to dispatch the ogre, despite it being a strong adversary, quite easily. Good roll from the ogre though. It actually tied and parried us. Parried us. Another hit on the ogre there. Just hit his leg there. Slashed its side there. And I think we've just dispatched the ogre, yep. Again, quite easily with the additional potion. As the ogre stumps to the ground, the creature in the cave jumps around even more frantically than before. Do you take a closer look at the creature in the cage, search through the contents of the cave, or leave the cave immediately and continue northwards? Well, surely you would just look at the creature. If he was like jumping around frantically. Ah, can you see? Inside the cage is a small, sinewy creature with brown, scaly skin. Is jumping up and down. He is indeed a goblin. Round his neck hangs a black, shiny rod on a leather cord. That sounds like the part we need, the part that we didn't get last time. Do you want to unlock the cage door into 117? If you want to leave the cave, continue northwards into 358. Well, we need to unlock the cage door, of course. If that's the part, we need that goblin dead. You unlock the door and step back, drawing your sword in case a goblin tries to attack you. He picks up a wooden stool and is waving it in the air. Kicks the door open and charges at you screaming. Okay, we're going to fight the goblin. Should be easily dispatched. 4 stamina, so it should just be literally just a couple of slices. That's it. Hopefully we're going to get the part then, the part that we were missing after all. So we were right to trust the crow then after all. You bend down over the lifeless body of the mad goblin and examine the rod around its neck. The rod is made of ebony, and there is a screw thread at one end. You are excited to see the letter G is neatly inscribed on the other end of what must be the handle of the dwarfish warhammer. You put your find in your backpack and gain 1 luck point. If you wish to continue through the search through the contents of the cave, then 263, or if you wish to leave the cave, to northwards into 358. Well, we might as well search the cave whilst we're here, right? There is not much of interest to be found in the cave. A straw bed, stone jars, a table and a chair are all that is immediately visible, but on a stone shelf above the bed, a small silver box catches your eye. Let's open the silver box, why not? You gently prise the lid off the box, but as you do so, a yellow gas escapes and envelops your face. If you do possess nose filters, which we do, the gas is indeed toxic and your eyes start to water. You hold your breath long enough to find the nose filters and slip them into place inside your nostrils. You inhale tentatively, but all is well. After a while, the gas cloud around your face fades away. You put the silver box inside your backpack, leave the cave, and continue your journey onwards. Northwards even. 358. Let's continue. Well, it's fantastic. We've got the last part, and we know where the second part is, so it's a matter of just getting there alive. Walking along the path, you do not notice a rope noose hidden beneath some fallen leaves ahead of you. Your foot catches into the noose, and suddenly you are hauled into the air by a rope, which is tied to a sprung tree. In a second, you are hanging upside down, suspended by your trapped foot. Test your luck. We will indeed do so. And we are indeed lucky, of course, because we've got 12 luck so far. Your sword remains in its scabbard, and you are able to use it to cut yourself down from the man trap. You get to your feet and curse, brushing the dirt from your clothes with your hands. You are tempted to wait around to discover who set this trap, but decide against it, and you continue northwards. Lucky escape there, guys. You notice a knotted vine hanging down to the ground from the tree to your left. You look up and see a roughly made treehouse amid the branches. If you wish to climb the vine up to the tree house, turn to 195, or if you wish to continue walking north, turn to 109. Well, let's look in the house, shall we? We've got some, we've got some leeway here. We've got the last part. We know where the second part is, so there. Well, let's climb it. Oh, hello. Shall we? You reach the top of the vine and scramble onto a wooden platform. A sheet made from leaves and ferns covers the entrance to a small covered living area. As you approach, the sheet is thrown back, and from up behind it steps a large and hairy ape-like creature, wearing only an animal hide loincloth. He is holding a large bone in his right hand and grunts at you. He is an ape man, apparently. You may draw your sword and attack him, or jump off the platform to the ground 5 meters below. I'm attacking him. I'm up here now, aren't I? The ape man is very agile around the trees, and you have difficulty brandishing your sword. You lose 2 from your attack strength during each round of combat. That's right. So we've got a disadvantage of -1, but that still gives us 11 advantage on him as a creature. 8 skill, and it was 7 stamina, but now only 5. Just about beat him there. Nearly got us there. 1 more hit should do it. Take his treehouse. We are triumphant. That was fairly easy, actually. You step over the body of the ape man and enter his living area. Animal bones and rotting fruit litter the floor. The ape man's bed is made of moss and lichen and seems to be crawling with bugs. You shudder and step back onto the platform. Then you notice a copper bracelet around the ape man's wrist. If you want to put it on your own wrist, turn to 302. Or if you rather climb down the vine to the path and continue walking northwards into 109. Well, I actually don't think that's a good idea putting that thing on, because maybe that's what made him into an ape. Or possibly, like, mad. So I actually reckon we should just leave it and just continue going north. Okay, here we go. This is the junction I think we got to last time. Soon the path leads out to the trees onto a large plain with tall grasses. Beyond it you see rising ground and further off some low hills. The path splits off into 3 directions. Now we know which direction we want to go. We got west, east or north. Now we have to find that wrestler guy, and he was on the far west. I remember on our first playthrough we had to keep going west, 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 and eventually we found this guy, so let's go west. The path ends at another junction. The way south leads back to the forest, so you decide to head north. Oh, okay. Walking quickly along the path through waist-high grass, you arrive at another junction in the path. If you wish to continue walking north into 105, or if you wish to go west into 361, well, west is best. We need to get to that guy, don't we? So we've gone west. From not far ahead comes the sharp noise of barking dogs drawing nearer. Suddenly, a brown fox with eyes wide open in the fear dashes past you running east. The frantic yelping of the dogs gets even louder. If you wish to face the oncoming pack of dogs, turn to 396, or if you'd rather hide in the tall grasses off to the path and let them run past in pursuit of the fox, turn to 86. Let's try and hide, shall we? As you crouch down in the tall grasses, you hear the sound of galloping hooves. Ah, okay, so there was horses too, just as well we hid, wasn't it? Amidst the barking. Then you see the legs of 4 hounds and 1 horse race past you in the cloud of dust. The sound of the hunt quickly fades into the distance, and you step out on the path again. Wondering about that poor old fox, you set off west once more. Soon you arrive again at another crossroads, and you decide the way south leads back to the forest, so you decide to ignore it. And I reckon that's where we actually came from in our first playthrough south, so that's why the junction was ignored there. So I reckon we should keep going west, and hopefully we'll find that wrestler guy. Which we do indeed. Mr. Hench. Ahead of you, you see that the path ends at the door of a large hut made of dried mud. It has a domed roof and a single window. You peer through the window and see a large man with dark skin sitting at the table in the middle of the hut. He is bare-chested and is flexing the muscles of his arms. And we will indeed enter the hut. As you enter the hut, the big man smiles. He looks pleased to see you and starts to speak in a deep voice. Welcome, stranger. My name is Quinn, and I earn my living by my arms. Would you care for a little wager, perhaps at arm wrestling? If you wish to accept the challenge, which we will indeed, turn to 28. Or we could also decline his offer, but we know that what he possesses is very important for the second part. We do in fact possess an armband of strength, so I think we quite easily win. Quinn explains that he will wager some dust of levitation against an item or coins of the value of 10 gold pieces. As you sit down at the table opposite him, you defiantly slip the armband of strength onto your arm. Or deftly, rather. You put your elbow onto the table and lock hands with him. His grip is like an iron jaw, and his dark eyes look confident. His biceps bulge and he gives the signal for the contest to begin. You start to push his arm down and are amazed at your own strength. Sweat breaks out on his forehead and you can see the disbelief and the pain on his face. You push harder and force his arm on the table in defeat. Quinn stands up and walks silently to a wooden chest at the back of the hut. He lifts the lid and pulls out a small glass vial. He hands it to you and walks back to the table, where he slumps in his chair looking thoroughly dejected. Poor guy. The dust in the vial sparkles in the light, and you put it into your backpack and leave the hut. Outside, you walk back to the junction in the path. So that was a dust levitation, everyone, and we need that for the second part. You arrive back at the crossroads, ignoring the way south, back to the forest. You may go north or continue going east. Well, we're going to go north here, guys. This is the halfway point, I think, in the forest, because it's the river. As you walk further northwards across the plain, the grass gradually becomes shorter, and the ground starts to rise gently. Ahead, you hear the roar of crashing water. Soon, you reach the bank of a wide river split on 2 levels. To your right, the water is calm and slow moving, but in front of you, it tumbles noisily down a waterfall into a gorge below, where the river narrows and runs quickly west over rocks and boulders. Steps lead down by the side of the waterfall to the bottom of the gorge, although it is difficult to see where they end because of the spray thrown up. Across the river, you see a path heading north into the distance. A small wooden boat is tied to the post to your right where the river is calm. So there's 2 routes here, and I think we went down the base of the waterfall and we went into the gorge itself. So we're going to go west, as before. You walk down the slippery stone steps to the bottom of the waterfall. You look up and see a magnificent rainbow reflected in the spray. It is dark in the gorge and impossible to see through the wall of water where the steps end. If you wish to walk through the sheet of water, turn to 181, or if you wish to climb back up the stone steps, turn to 326. Well, we're going to walk through this. We're going to walk through the sheet of water. Interesting. This is slightly different, I think, to what we occurred last time, which is very fascinating. At least from my memories banks, anyway. You walk along the steps through the waterfall into a large cavern where there's a pool of still water. The steps run around the side of the pool, and there is a stone table and chairs on the far side. You go to the table and see fish scraps lying on it. Suddenly you hear a noise of splashing behind you. A strange creature climbs out of the pool and advances towards you armed with a trident. His legs are like man's, but his face and torso resemble a large green fish with bulbous eyes. His arms are like yours, but are covered with large scales. He is a fishman, and you must fight him. Very intimidating. I think we may have fought it before. Let's fight him. Okay, so 6 stamina, 7 skill. Let's see what happens here then. Nice. Got a gun on the side there. Yep, higher roll again. And 1 more should do it. Max. We've got 2 6s there. Nice. We dispatched the fishman quite easily. Brilliant. There is nothing of use or value in the fishman's cave, so you walk around to the north side wall. Steps lead back through the waterfall and up the north wall of the gorge to the top. You are at the foot of some hills and can see the path climbing up into the midst in the north. It is getting dark and night is closing in, so you decide to camp behind some rocks to the right of the path. You put a large fire and settle down to sleep with your sword by your side. How interesting. I don't recall this. Very interesting. You have been asleep for about an hour now, when the noise of deep growling wakes you up. You stand up without making a noise and grab your sword. You wait and listen. I actually wonder if it's because we got the first part before. Well, we didn't get the first part before. Maybe the story changed slightly, and maybe that's why there's more creatures against us. There's a full moon in the sky, and the light casts eerie shadows all around. You hear soft footsteps and sniffing, followed by a low growl. Then a shape, which looks like a man, steps out of the shadows to your right, and he gets closer. You see that his chest, arms and face are covered with thick brown hair, and long teeth protrude from his mouth. Very scary. He is in fact a werewolf, and we must fight him. Lots of combat this episode, isn't there? Werewolf is quite an adversary. 8 skill, but only 9 stamina. Oh, 7 stamina. We should be able to easily dispatch him. That potion of extra skill was very helpful indeed. One more should do it. It's just as well we got some really good rolls, wasn't it, on our skill and stamina and things. If the werewolf wounded you during the combat, which it didn't, luckily, we didn't receive any wounds, so we gain 1 luck point and we continue to 316. Eventually you manage to get back to sleep but have a restless night. In the morning you collect your belongings and head north along the path into the hills. Interesting. I reckon we should save here, guys. I will continue going. I know it's nearly half an hour now, but I'm going to continue because I reckon we can do this in one take. So let's do this. The ground is steep as the path and it ends its way into the hills. By the time you reach the top, the sun is quite hot. All around the distance you see the dark green circle of Darkwood Forest. Mist still hangs in the tall grasses behind you, but ahead you see a valley floor bathed in sunlight. All is quiet. As you start down the far side of the hill, you see a junction in the path. You may either continue north down the hill, or you may head east along the new grounds. Let's go north, shall we? The path runs through a narrow gorge between two hills. That rings familiar. You feel vulnerable and draw your sword, expecting to be ambushed at any moment. Unfortunately, because you are concentrating on watching the sides of the gorge, you do not see a small patch of leaves and branch on the path ahead. Your foot goes right through the thin coverings of a trap and plunge 4 meters to the bottom of a rocky pit. To add to your misfortune, a wooden stake with a sharp tip points out of the centre of the pit. We'll test our luck here, but it shouldn't matter because we've got a max of luck 12 out of 12. So we managed to avoid landing on the floor, but we do fall heavily on the floor, despite that, losing 2 stamina points in the process. We do possess boots of leaping, so I think we can just leap out of the pit. The pit is circular, with smooth sides, and you are weak from your fall. However, you reach into your backpack and pull out the brown leather boots. They are very tight on your feet. You crouch down, and in one mighty leap, you are out of the pit. You dust yourself down, and continue your walk north down the gorge. Continuing down the gorge, you see a handle of a sword sticking out from a large rock by the side of the path, and that I recall, because that was a magical one, so we will try and pull the sword out if we can. Now we've got to try and get our skill level underneath when we do indeed get the skill check, and as you recall here, I won't read this in full, but it's definitely a magnificent sword made by a master craftsman, and we gain 2 points on top of our skill, giving it a crazy amount of 14. Now, beneath the hills you see the flat green valley floor stretching out ahead beyond a sinister wall of trees, Darkwood Forest. On the other side of the trees lies Stonebridge, your journey's end. Arriving on your valley floor, the path ends in a junction, and I think we went west here. I think. The path makes a sudden turn to the right and heads north across the valley floor. To the left of the path, you see a large pond with a small wooden hut and thatched roof by its edge. I think we went into the hut before, but I think because we know what's in there, we're going to ignore it and continue along the path. Okay. As you walk across the valley, you see a dark green wall of Darkwood Forest looming before you. The path leads directly into a thick undergrowth, and you soon are walking between 2 dark trees and thorny bushes. It is very dark and quiet. The path forks. Do you wish to walk east or north? Let's go north. Amidst the trees to your left of the path, you see a small stone building covered with ivy and moss, and I think this is the crypt, which we're going to examine now. The building measures only 3 meters by 3 meters and has no windows. The door is made of solid stone and looks very solid. There is no handle, and there's no silver key for some reason. We'll charge the door down. Hopefully we can get it done. Unlucky. The door flies open indeed, so we didn't need a silver key luckily. I think the hut might have had the silver key in hindsight, but luckily we didn't need it. Inside you see stone stairs leading down from the door into the gloomy depths. You cannot see a thing down these stairs. And we will descend the stairs. A familiar tomb. You were here before, we found the part. Let's read through this one more time, see if we can avoid the traps here. You step carefully down the stone stairs, feeling your way as you go. Slowly your eyes become accustomed to the dark, and you begin to make out shapes at the bottom of the stairs. You are standing in a small square room with a low ceiling. The floor is thick with dust and there are cobwebs everywhere. In the middle of the room, there is what appears to be a large stone box, measuring approximately 2 meters by 1 meter. The top of it is a great stone slab. Along one of the rough stone walls, you find a small alcove with a candle in it. You may light the candle, or walk back up the stairs and return to the path and head north. We're going to light the candle, guys. The light from the candle casts eerie shadows around the room. In the yellow light, you see the face of an old man carved in the stone slab top of the box. And you notice the leg of a skeleton protruding from the shadows in the far corner of the room. You walk over the skeleton to inspect it. The skeleton is small, and the skull has sharp, protruding teeth. It could be the skeleton of either a goblin or an orc. I reckon it must be the goblin, you see, the second goblin. You walk over to the stone box. The slab on the top looks like it could be moved, and we will indeed try to lift it. But it won't budge. But we do have the dust levitation, which is what we needed to lift it. You take from your backpack the glass vial containing the sparkling dust and sprinkle it over the stone slab. Slowly the stone slab starts to rise into the air. You peer into the box and are horrified to see a rotting corpse lying there. Ragged clothes covers a skeletal body with loose flesh hanging from it. You have lifted the lid of a coffin containing some cursed undead creature and jump back in horror as you see its eyes flick open. You are in a crypt made foul by some unknown follower of darkness. Slowly the creature rises out of its coffin and towards you, with outstretched arms. We do indeed possess holy water. You reach into the backpack and pull out the small bottle of holy water. Quickly removing the cork, you throw the water at the advancing ghoul. Thick smoke rises into the air from the burn marks made by the holy water on the putrid flesh of the ghoul. The ghoul appears to be in great pain, but through its wide open mouth, no sound is heard. It crawls into the corner of the room, desperate to escape your godly weapon. You walk over to the coffin and look inside. You are overjoyed to see, as well as 25 gold pieces, an object that the ghoul was using as a headrest, a bronze hammerhead with the letter G inscribed in it. We do indeed have both pieces, guys. You happily put your findings into your backpack and walk back up the stairs to lead to the crypt and return to the path and head north. Our task now, guys, is to get to Stonebridge, or whatever town the Dwarfs are from. The path presses on northwards through the dense trees, and it makes a sudden turn to the right and heads east. The path is so overgrown in places that you have to use your sword to cut through it. The walk east is long and tiring. At last you reach a junction in the path. Looking at Big Leg's map, you decide to head north again in the direction of Stonebridge and ignore the narrow path continuing east. The path opens out into a small clearing. To your right you see a pile of branches, grass and pieces of rag, the lair of some large creatures. And on the debris and old bones scattered about, you catch sight of something glittering. I think here, we won't look more closely because we thought it actually led us to a wyvern attack, and I think here we're going to continue along the path and continue. Now here, remember, we've had this tribe here that wanted some items from us, so walking along the narrow path you suddenly hear the sharp crack of a twig breaking and the whispers of low voices. You draw your sword and wait anxiously with your back to a large oak tree. Then all of a sudden, from behind the trees opposite you, steps 4 men and a woman dressed in green tunics. Each looks menacing, and they stand with swords and axes in their hands. The young woman steps forward and tells you that you are trespassing on their territory, and you must pay a levy of 5 objects from your backpack or face the consequences. And I think we will do that. We will give them what they want, and I'm just going to give them 5 gold pieces rather than any of the items, just in case we need them at any later point in the adventure. Let's continue. We have given them 5 objects. We're going to continue and move on. The bandit woman takes the items from you and steps back to let you pass. You head north again and soon notice the trees beginning to thin out on either side of the path. Eventually the path leads up with the trees into a ploughed field. You are out of Darkwood Forest at last. Now looks familiar. Stonebridge. The path leads through the field to a stone bridge over a clear stream. Beyond the bridge are the small cottages and wooden huts of a village. A sign on the bridge, ironically, and subsequently reads Stonebridge. You cross the bridge and see two old dwarfs with long white beards standing by a cottage looking at you. Do you have the hammer head and the handle with the letter G inscribed in them? Which we do. We have both this time rather than just the one. Here we go. Here's the last entry, I think, guys. You walk up to the old dwarfs and ask them to take you to Gillibrand. They eye you suspiciously but agree to do so, commenting on your wounds and torn clothing. You got those in Darkwood Forest, I presume, says one of the dwarfs, pointing at various gashes on your body with his long clay pipe. Some people never learn. Adventurers are all the same. I can't see the sense in it myself. You walk through the villages behind the two dwarfs and are aware of many dwarvish folk watching you. They begin to follow you and a procession builds up behind. There are lots of mutterings and whispers amongst the crowd of dwarfs, and expectant looks show on their faces. Soon you arrive at the foot of the stone steps leading up to a stone building. Outside the building, on an ornate wooden throne, sits a small old man with a long beard. He is wearing a crown but looks miserable and holds his head in his hands. You run up the steps, taking the hammerhead and handle from your backpack. At the sight of them, the old dwarf's eyes light up and he jumps to his feet. Taking them eagerly from him, he starts to shout, My hammer! My hammer! We are saved! Now, my people, we are ready to fight the trolls." The whole crowd erupts into cheering, waving their axes and swords in the air. You tell Gillibrand of Big Leg's misfortune and why you decide to continue his quest, and of all of the monsters you have counted on your way. Gillibrand listens and frowns at the news of Big Leg, his faithful servant. And he opens a drawer in the base of the throne and reaches into it, pulling out a small silver box and a gold winged helmet, and hands them to you. The helmet is worth hundreds of gold pieces, and you proudly place it on your head. A great roar of approval comes from the crowd. You open the silver box and find dozens of jewels and gems. You put these into your backpack and wave to the happy dwarfs of Stonebridge. Your quest is finally over, and you are now wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. The end. So that, guys, was the Forest of Doom. I actually found that book a little bit easier than the previous. I think we got lucky on the first playthrough understanding how to get the second piece, which I think by far was harder than the first piece, and we needed the Dust of Levitation from that guy, which we subsequently conveniently found, and that was the only way we could get the second piece. Then the first piece, which is a matter of narrowing down which path we didn't take, because we just went left the entire time in the first playthrough. But the second one we went north and followed the crow's advice, and it did lead us to the first part, and the second part we knew what to do and where to go. So it actually was quite an easy book. We did it in 4 parts, a bit of a longer 4th part this one, but I hope you've really enjoyed this book. I have indeed. Our next book, let me have a look and see which book to play next, will be The City of Thieves, I believe. Yes, The City of Thieves, and that will be book 5 in our playlist. As you can see, just there, the second book on this row here. So please keep in touch with that. I'll be posting City of Thieves probably later on this weekend. If you like this video series, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and develop. I also have a series on motivational videos, speeches, and all sorts of playlists and stuff that I'll be releasing soon. I'm hoping to do a series on the history of British monarchs as well, just something a bit different. But if you like the video, if you like the series, please like and subscribe. It really does help, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening to me read through the book, and I hope you've enjoyed the series. I'd really recommend getting this app, or at least buying a couple of these books as well. I hope to do a few more books as well that are not on this app, but I'm going to have to set up a camera for that so we can flick through the books in person, but I'll set up that shortly. But you take care, and thank you so much for watching. Take care, bye.